Hello, full stack web developer, and welcome to Coding for All, the channel required to become a full stack web developer with practical applications and utilizing free resources. In the last video, we did advanced JavaScript and DOM manipulation to make a cool website known as DrumKit, and today we are going to do the same video, but it's going to be the part 2. So in this video, we will be doing that. Before we start our lecture formally, like the video and subscribe to the channel so we learn and grow together. Up till now, we just talk about the objects, properties, or methods, but let's try to dig in and understand what JavaScript objects are and how we can use them to dominate the web. Now let's say that you have inherited a restaurant and you are in charge of running it. Now when you arrive, the first thing you notice is there's a whole load of tables and chairs that are in the restaurant. And you have got customers who are checking and waiting. So what do you need to do? You need a waiter, right? So let's go ahead and employ our first waiter. His name is A. Now in addition to his name, there are a number of things that you need to know about him. So let's quiz him out. Alright. So what is your name? My name is A. So for this, we can create a variable that can capture and save its name, like waiter1 name. Now as we keep quizzing him, we will get to know his age, the languages that he speaks. So if we create an alert for that, then it will show like it is shown here. Hello, my name is waiter1 name, and so it will say hello, my name is A. So up till now we should be very familiar with this kind of syntax. But let's say we are really good at running restaurants and gets completely booked out. We are effectively swamped with customers and waiting line, so he can't manage by himself. Let's employ some other waiters and waitresses, like you can see here. Now if we go through the same process creating the first waiter, it will take us forever to add more and more waiters and do that. So what can we do instead? Well, in real life, this information might be better represented by a table or an Excel spreadsheet like this. Because we need to know the same properties for each of the waiters, we can simply just create a number of rows that represent each of the property. As we recruit new waiters, we just fill in the values of each and every property. But now in JavaScript, creating something similar to this by simply creating an object. So we must need to create a variable, and it would have a number of properties that will assign the values for each of the properties and enclose inside a set of curly braces. And let me show you how we can do that. Now you can see right in front of you, create a variable inside the brackets. You can simply write the name is A, age is 19, languages in a form of array. So if I create an alert, so he will say, hello, my name is waiter1.name, which is the name of the object dot name. We are using the dot to access the property that's called name, and this would create an alert that says hello, my name is A. But our data is now far more structured, and it's much less likely that we'll make an error when we are assigning names and ages to our new waiters. And by doing this, we effectively just create a JavaScript object. Now if we were to create a manager object, then the properties would definitely be quite different, because obviously there are some other pieces of information that we would like to know, or we can even ask the same thing. We can also ask for how long have you been working in a restaurant, in what restaurants have you been working in, so the different objects. So now what I want you to do is creating objects. So head over to sources tab, go to the just developer tools, elements, and I want you to create an object that is manager, and he needs to have a number of properties. So depending on what you think might be relevant properties for a managers, just then go ahead, add it to the object. And so for this reason, pause the video and give it a try. So let me show you how we can do that. For example, variable is going to be the manager. Here we go. The first variable we can create is name, can be t, and then age could be like 34, then year, experience in years, and years could be like 5. We can also add languages. The only reason I'm adding languages is just to show that how we can create string. Let me show how it goes now. So okay, so over here we have created an object that we do the same way, create new variables. We start with a new keyword bar and then we just give our object a name. So in this case we can say the manager. Then we are going to set it equal to, but instead of just giving it a value as we have done before, we are going to give it a number of properties, and all those properties are enclosed inside curly braces. Now for example, first property is like name, then it's age, experience in years, then it's languages. So the left hand side is the name of the property, and you can name it whatever it is that you want. But a good idea is to follow the rules of conventional naming of JavaScript. I hope you remember that camel casing, as well as not using numbers to begin with apply here as well. Effectively, when we are creating property inside objects, we are just creating a variable that's associated with another variable, and of course you can assign it any value you wish, a number, string, an array, whatever it is that you want, like we did right in front of you. So let's say the all is here, so experience is here, name, let's call him D, as you can see right in front of you. And that's all. Why don't we try to call him now? Try to call this over here, so I can write console.log. What I'm going to ask for is manager dot name, for example. Press enter. So you can see the name is D as we defined it. Let's say that our restaurant has just been featured in the top restaurants in the world, and we are literally full every single day, and actually we need far more waiters than just the 2 or 3 that we already have. And going through this process for every single time when we have to create a new object, we have to write the name and properties, all that. And if you notice, for all of our waiters we have same properties, and we don't actually have to type all of these properties again and again and again every single time we want to construct a new waiter object or even a manager. So what's the solution to this? Well, we can actually create a factory. Yep, a factory that basically pumps out waiters all day long. That factory in JavaScript code looks something like I'm going to show you right now. This is the one. So we could create a function that has a name of waiter, and this is called construction function. And what's special about construction function is that names have to be capitalized, and it's no longer the same camel casing that we have seen so far. The first letter of the first word also has to be capitalized, and this is how we can tell that this is a construction function. and not just an odd function. So an odd function starts with a small letter, but this is going to start with a capital letter. Now the constructor function takes a number of inputs, and these are inputs that we are going to provide when we create a new object from this constructor function or from this factory. Inside the construction function, we match the inputs to property names. So for example, we will say this object dot name is equal to the name that was given as an input when we construct this object. Now this looks a little bit confusing, but let me show you what it looks like when we initialize a new object, or effectively when we create an object from that factory. So in order to show you practical application, let me show you and take you to the console and element part. As you can see, it is a construction function. So how do we write the construction function? So the first thing is as function, and we write waiters, we need name, we need age, we need languages, curly braces, this dot name equals to name, this dot age is equals to age, this dot languages equals to languages. So now we need to do one more thing here. And what we can do, why don't we assign some values? For example, we have for waiter 1 is equals to new. First of all, why don't we learn to see if it's correct or not? So there's no error in the syntax, that's good. Let me show you what if we write it here? What if we don't write it here? Dot 1 is equals to new. So the same as we have written above. For example, the name is the name. I think it is better if I write it down so you can even see it. Waiter 1 is equals to new waiters, and see, now it's automatically asking write the name here. This is the name. Now asking for the age, and say 23 is the age of, and languages that speaks. You can simply put anything like a no, it's already there. So C D. Let me see if it's running. Okay, that's good. I'll write console dot log, and I need waiter 1 dot name. Here we are. And what if I copy this again, paste it here, and I write age? So as we have given above the data, we are getting the same values. So now you see, so it is really simple. So to begin with, we need to create a function, and the function name has to be capitalized. So we are creating, for example, waiters over here. This function is going to take a number of inputs, and those inputs correspond to all of the properties we need. So as I have mentioned, name, age, and languages. So we are going to say this object is going to have name, age, languages, years of experience, or anything that you want to input. It comes in through here. And then I'm just going to go through this and create this code, all of the properties. So it is perfectly doing fine, as we have created a new variable that is like waiter 1, that is equals to the new. Afterwards, we just write anything that we want, as I have written the age here. So it is as simple as just filling the properties with the new values, and we can use that object factory to pump out new objects with those same properties all day long. So now that we know which key was pressed and how we can get its inner HTML, now we need to know how can we play a different sound depending on which key was pressed. Well, you might think to the if-else statements that we learned in our introduction to JavaScript modules, but there's actually 7 keys in total. So we would have to write quite a few if-else statements. In this area, it would actually be easier to write what's called a switch statement, which is just like a railroad switch. It will take down the code a different track depending on the value of a variable. So let's delete this line of code and let's start writing our switch. There we go. Now inside Atom, as soon as you start writing word switch, there we go. Here is our auto suggestion, and when you hit enter, then it will give you bare bones of what it should look like. So you can see the keyword here instead of if is switch, and then afterward we have set a parenthesis which includes the expression or the thing that we are going to switch on. And in our case, we are going to switch on the letter that inside the inner HTML of each of these buttons. So just let's create a variable that holds value. So we can call it button inner HTML. Let me show you what I'm saying right now, so it will be easier for you. So we will create a variable. Okay, so let me get this started. There we are. Var button inner HTML equals to this dot inner HTML. I'm sorry. Then the switch, inside switch, as we have decided, we will enter expression here, and that is button inner HTML. And then the case is W. That is our first case. And what do we want inside? Inside we need var and then crash equals new audio. I'll explain what I'm writing here, although we have discussed this before. Sounds crash dot mp3, then this, as we did before, crash dot play. There we are. And default, I'm going to explain what does this mean. So over here we have created a variable that holds the value button inner HTML, and we'll set it equal to what we have set it. Okay, this inner HTML. Yeah. So the first case, if that was equal to W, so remember our first button that has an inner HTML of letter W. So if it was the letter W, then we are going to tell it to play crash. Obviously, it depends upon how you have set all that up. You can set Tom1, you can set crash. I went for crash. So it's your own choice. So I'm going to take that code that I commented out, that you can see right below. And instead of taking that out, I have just used the same syntax to paste above. So now if the button inner HTML didn't happen to be equal to W, then it could be equal to something else. So in that case, we would have to specify next likely scenario, which is what if inner HTML was A. So how can we write that? Let me take you here. So after break, you will go down, or what I would say, why don't you just copy all this till break, center. Now we are going with case A, and over here I am going to go with kick bass, BASS, no audio. So over here, obviously it depends upon the sound that you are going to play on which button. So I'm going to go with kick start mp3. Over here, the same name that I have given above, I need to use the same name, otherwise it won't work. So this is something that you should take care of. And now what I want you to do, there's a challenge for you. I want you to just pause the video and try to complete using same syntax for everything. I can even beautify it if it's not that clear to any one of you. So you see, it's already beautified. That's a good practice. Now I want you to pause the video and write the same line of code for each and every button, including W, A, S, D, whatsoever. So pause the video and give it a try. So how did it go? I hope it was not much difficult for you, because we used the same method. We just copied and pasted, and there is no rocket science in it, trust me. You just need to watch it a little carefully, because if you have any mistake with the syntax, that will cause you a problem. So if you're good with 1 and 2 cases like W and A we did together, you are going to be perfect with each and every case. So now just few more things to share with you, and that is, now after the first case is done, then there is a break statement which tells the code to exit the switch statement and continue with the rest of the code. Now, if button HTML didn't happen to be equal to W, then it could be something else, and that is A, the second button got clicked. But in this case, we are going to play next sound, and once again we have to end our case with a break. So the switch statement looks a bit weird, because instead of saying something else, an open parenthesis here and a closing parenthesis here, it would actually has a colon and a break keyword instead. But just know that it's basically the same thing between the colon and the break keyword. All the things we want the website to carry out if the button inner HTML was equal to this particular case. Okay, so I believe we are done with this right now. Why don't I take you back to the website and how does it look like? So Control S, I'll go back, I'll refresh it. So are you ready? Okay, go. Oh yeah, man, it's going good. And you know what? Actually, I'm thinking I haven't come up with anything right now, but I'm thinking of sharing my music code with you in the comment section below, and I would encourage you to share your music code with which letters you want me to press first. So let's see, why don't we have a competition right now? So our competition is you, as my viewers and my friends and my family and network, you will share your musical code with me in the comment section below, and I'll share mine, and we'll see whose music is the best one. Okay, so now we can produce different sound for each button click. That's pretty cool, right? Now we are going to move further just to add more additions to it, that how we can use keyboard to trigger the sound instead of having to press on the buttons. So but I don't think that I might be able to share all that with you in this lecture, because otherwise it will get too lengthy. But obviously there is something more to share with you, so your next lecture or your next video will become even easier for you to understand. Now we are going to talk about method in DOT or dot notation. Now, what about methods? Let's say our reader can do simple tasks like taking order. Now, I've kind of simplified it here, but it's effective that he creates an alert saying, "May I take your order?" And then he takes order and then just moves, like you can see on the left side. Function, take order, alert, what would you like to take? And write order and move. That is simple. Now this is a function because at the moment it is not attached to an object. But in our previous syntax, if we wanted our object to also have an associated function, then all we have to do is provide the name of the function as a new parameter and then colon. And then after the colon, we just put anonymous function, and now our waiter1 has a method, which remember is just a function that's associated with an object. And if we have you can say customers waiting, then we can simply call the method and say waiter1 dot take order parenthesis, as we have been doing, and perform that method. So remember, when we are using the properties or calling a method, we are always using dot notation. And the only difference that you see between the method and the property are those parentheses. So keep an eye out for those. Now, if we wanted to incorporate this method into our construction function, then all we have to write is what you can see on your right. This dot take order is equal to a function that does these and these things that you can see right in front of you. Take order, this dot name, this dot age, this language, this dot take order, and then there's a function, and it will have an alert message, "May I take your order, please take order, move," and that's all, nothing else. And now when we create any object using constructor functions, then all of those objects will have that function of taking order, and they'll be able to do that. So as a challenge, I want you to add a method to our, you can say, manager constructor function. And this method is just, you can say, taking order or order in progress, so that we can get the manager to perform the order. Or I've just used the word manager because we have been using waiter for so long, so now why don't we go with manager? And when we are going to do it in a simplified way, so that our method of what it does sends an alert, says order in progress or order taken. So add that to the construction function, create a new manager from that construction function, or waiter, whatever you feel like, and call the taking order method associated with the new project or object. So pause the video and give it a try. See if you can complete this challenge. First, as we did before, function manager, then there is name, age, then experience, and years. This curly big, where's the stock name, name, this dot age equals to page, and this dot experience is equals to experience in years, then obviously this dot order update that I want to take, or you can say I want to use, so that is going to be a function. Then there are some internal, you can create an alert, and you can say order taken. Here we are, just to see if it's going good. Okay, everything is going perfect. Over here, so far, for example, if I go with manager 1 equals to new manager, the name could be age would be like 44, experience in year 10 years. Huge experience, huh? There we go. Now what if I write manager 1 dot order date? See, perfect. So alright, so as we said before, to create a new method or a new property, we first have to start with just the name property. So our method is, you can say, order update. So now we have got our method, everything is there. We put here's an experience and all that. And when we hit enter, we can see right in front of us that it is saying that order taken. So pretty good, right? Now at this point, you might be getting a little bit of deja vu because it's looking pretty similar to something that we have written before. It looks almost exactly the same as these lines of code that we have used to create new audio and to play the audio, because we created a new variable that was, you can say, tom1, crash, kitpass, anything, and it's a new audio object that is linked to this particular sound file. Then later on, we use that object's method called play to play that sound. So even though we can't see the source code of this constructor function, but we could guess what it might look like. So the constructor function for this audio object might look something like this. So as with all constructor function, you start off with a keyword function and then you have the name of the object that is going to construct with the first letter capitalized, and then in between some parentheses we have some inputs like we have shown previously, and in this case it could be like location of the file for that audio. So now our constructor makes a new property called file location, which is set equal to the location that was given to this new audio object gets created. And this constructor function also has an associated method called play. And this play function does a number of things. For example, it might tap into audio hardware of the computer. It might check whether the file at the file location specified exists. It might check that the file is actually a sound file, and then it might try and play that file at the location. So there is a lot of things, and I hope that this lesson has helped you to understand what we have been writing. And then we created our audio objects, and when we call our methods or when we use our properties in our DrumKit website, a lot of these concepts are quite abstract, I know. And it might take a little bit of repetition and coming back to it a few times in order for it to start making more sense. But as with all things programming, as we get more practice using a lot of these concepts over time, it will become more and more familiar to you, and the puzzle pieces will start coming together. So don't worry if some of this stuff is going over your head. We are going to revisit this in the future, and as we keep building more and more websites. but this is a great place to just sow the seeds about the objects in JavaScript, and hopefully you will revisit this lesson a few more times and eventually getting really comfortable with this concept. So I hope that you had fun and you will be implementing and you will be revisiting all this again and again. So we will have our next video next week, inshallah. I hope you have liked the video, shared the video, and subscribed to the channel. So until then, good luck and bye, full stack web developer.